Rasengan.
Code, Kawaki, and Boruto. They are the true changers or bearers of fate. Yeah, I'm Nim, but please help me push the algorithm by liking this video. Thanks, guys. So yeah, as the title says, each of these entities, especially Kawaki, Code, and Boruto, are fate changers. In other words, the three of them will lead us toward entirely different fates. Actually, when it comes to fate and such, Kashin Koji is indeed the guide or ultimate changer of fate, because he is the singularity of fate. But believe it or not, ever since Boruto's fight against Jura in the previous chapter, along with Koji's controversial statement that Boruto's done for, no doubt, this has been the beginning of a karma concept that branches out and leads toward different fates. I'm not sure what exact words would perfectly describe this, but at the very least, Ikemoto, as the official writer and illustrator of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, and of course, in line with Masashi Kishimoto's own statement that the Boruto 2 Blue Vortex manga belongs to Ikemoto-sensei, has truly created a masterpiece. A concept that Koji had, that it was a shinjutsu that could foretell the future and see some probabilities that would happen in the future. It turns out that there is another concept that comes from God himself that indirectly becomes the natural distractor of a jutsu called ten direction, and that is karma. Even though Code has a different type of karma compared to the one Kawaki and Boruto have, let's start all of this from Boruto himself. The fate of Boruto, Uzumaki, and Kawaki. So if you flash back to chapter 13, where at that time Koji explained an incident between Boruto and Kawaki in chapter 78 of Boruto Next Generation, there was a moment where Kawaki wanted to kill Boruto. The presence of Momoshiki, who kept appearing in front of him, made Kawaki's desire to kill Boruto even stronger. But until at one point when Kawaki and Boruto fought, Boruto's eyes at that time suffered a severe injury. Until now, Boruto's eyes have not recovered, right? Well, at that moment too, Sarada certainly did not just see Kawaki intending to kill Boruto, but this was the very starting point of why Boruto became a changer of fate for the first time. We know in that era, Kashin Koji was not yet Boruto's partner, and of course, there was no concept where the future could be predicted, right? But in chapter 13 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, Koji mentioned that when Sarada tried to protect Boruto, in the end, Sarada and Boruto died at the hands of Kawaki. But in fact, all of that failed. But what exactly was the trigger, the distract or something like that, that made it not happen, as Koji said in chapter 13? Saying that at the time, Kawaki tried to kill Boruto and Koji through a toad intervened in Boruto's intention to fight. Of course, that is something that does not make sense, right? Because again, it was an era where Boruto and Koji had not been partners like now. Well, the real point is, what makes it not happen? Regardless that this is the author's wish, there is an answer that makes sense. And again, it is karma. For some reason, 10-direction shinjutsu, or can be referred to as Jippo, has a loophole where the existence of users who are activating karma becomes a natural distrake. Because believe it or not, in this scene, if Boruto just stays still and doesn't sacrifice himself and ends up losing his eye, then it will make Sarada die at the hands of Kawaki along with Boruto himself. And of course, this is based on what Koji said in chapter 13. As a result, Yu being killed by Kawaki along with Sarada Uchiha, who tried to stop him. I know this might be just a minor or just a guess, but if you look at this in detail, especially how Boruto was lying down when Koji declared him dead, is it really the case that if the position of Boruto's body behind the one that was dead at that time did not get a wound in his eye? Yeah, I know this is minor and kind of silly, but who knows, right? In other words, by sacrificing himself, especially his eye, Boruto also changed the fate of his own death. That means Boruto is someone who has interfered with the course of fate. And of course, as a karma user, he has changed the fate of planet Earth. And also Kawaki, who possesses karma. According to the prophecy or future timeline that Koji saw, during the battle between Naruto in his final mode and Ishiki, Naruto was supposed to die. In the end, Ishiki was meant to be reborn into Kawaki's body. But as someone who possesses karma, Kawaki changed the fate and prophecy that Koji described by deceiving Ishiki. He used a clone as a fake vessel. So when Ishiki transplanted his karma into Kawaki's body, it didn't work as intended because the body he transferred it into was just a clone. In other words, the prophecy or future timeline that was supposed to happen, according to Koji's words, was unintentionally altered by Kawaki himself. And once again, if Kawaki hadn't changed that future timeline, this planet would have been destroyed by the Divine Tree. Especially when it comes to the Divine Tree human. We know Boruto failed to prevent the birth of the divine tree human. Eventually, that threat continued until the most crucial moment, Jura, as the divine tree human almost killed Boruto. But before that, to overcome this problem, Boruto chose a path that Kashin Koji did not recommend. He told Kawaki, as Ishiki's vessel of karma, about the fate related to the limiting power within his body. As a result, Kawaki managed to change Boruto's fate from dying at Jura's hands to surviving. But Boruto's fate kept moving forward. As long as Jura remained undefeated, Boruto still had a high chance of dying. Because of course, Kashin Koji, who had already concluded Boruto was done for, with no doubt, was unexpectedly proven wrong, without Koji even knowing, as a singularity of fate, thanks to Kawaki's arrival saving Boruto's life. After seeing that Boruto and Kawaki as karma users have had, changed, and created their own fates, indirectly disrupting the fate seen in Koji's prophecy, naturally, Code is in a similar position to Kawaki and Boruto. But in reality, Code's case can't yet be categorized as a true fate changer or someone who can alter the future path Koji saw. Besides the fact that Code's scenes aren't as numerous as Kawaki's and Boruto's, Code hasn't shown much that disrupts Koji's foresight. But does that mean there's a chance for Code to become a singularity of fate like Boruto and Kawaki? Actually, yes, and only a meeting with Kashin Koji could give Code that chance. In other words, that's what will determine whether Code, as the wielder of the white karma, could trigger a branching of the future timeline. In short, the meeting between Code and Koji will be the real answer. Because we know Code is currently targeting Boruto's partner, right? So if Code meets Koji, will Koji reveal what the future truly holds for him? Or will he tell an entirely opposite future instead? But most likely, Code's role will be crucial in creating a better fate in the future. Or in the worst case, the opposite. Because as we know, Code's fate is actually determined by Jura, whether or not he consumes the chakra fruit. And that's the trigger. If he gets the chakra fruit, he'll evolve into a new Otsutsuki. Final conclusion. Even though we all know Boruto's fate was stated by Toneri, that Boruto's eye is the star of hope for the world from Earth's destruction, at the very least, Boruto's karma has also been a trigger for the branching of the future. And not just Boruto, Kawaki and Code both have an important role and point as to why the future is becoming harder to predict and harder to guess. Because each of them has a future path that will most likely distract from the future course Koji has foreseen. But from all the analysis and theories I've explained, do you agree, or do you have your own perspective? The main point is, Boruto must face two other fates carried by other karma wielders. But in the end, the jougan will be the true answer. So yeah, what do you guys think? Are karma users truly the bearers and changers of fate? Whatever it is, I'd be happy to hear it. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. I'm Nim, and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye, Databayo.